We have our next horse in the paint booth and we're going to get it ready for primer. Plus, I had my second carving student here, Will from Knoxville, Tennessee. We're going to check in on him and see how well he did in 2 days. That's all coming up. Stick around. Well, welcome back to the shop where we are continuing work on our Palomino horse for Christmas. And we've got a few things yet to do before we can go ahead and get it primered, or at least start primering. One of the things I want to show you is how I set the glass eyes. And again, I thought maybe I'd slow down a little bit and we'll go into detail on how I set those. They're not very difficult. Also, I'll show you how to recess the notches here for the stirrup staples. So we'll get that done, and then we're going to give everything a final sand here and we'll get it ready for primer. Then we're going to go out to the shop. I'm going to introduce you to Will that came up from Knoxville, Tennessee. He signed up to take my 2-day head carving course, and you won't believe how much he got done in just 2 days. I couldn't believe it either. So that'll be coming up later on. But for now, let's go ahead. Let's continue sanding on this guy. Let's get the eyes set and let's get this ready for primer. So let's go ahead and we'll get this eye set so that that is done. Then we can go back and we'll start working on the rest of this horse. The first thing I do is grab my quick wood here, my quick wood epoxy putty. And this is pretty simple to do. The epoxy will come, it's almost like a clay form, and it has a hardener on the inside. And you just cut off a piece of that and just start kneading it. And get everything mixed, get the hardener mixed with the putty itself, and that'll activate it. And then when you have it pretty well kneaded and you have a nice consistent color, I just go in and I'll add quite a bit into that eye socket there. And the other thing that I found, the little trick to doing this with this epoxy putty, is you want to smear on a thin layer and kind of work it into the grain of the wood so it helps get everything to stick. So I always kind of just get a nice thin layer kind of worked in all the way around the eye, like that. Maybe add a little bit more, because the idea is here, we're going to take that eye and we're going to compress it, and we want that putty to ooze out around the eye socket. Then we can start forming the eyelid that way. So I have my eye. I'll use a rag or a paper towel or something. Try to do this so that you can see it. That looks pretty good. So then I'll just kind of take all of that excess and kind of smear it around again. Take a little bit more. And I just work it all the way around the eye. Something like that. Now again, we probably have too much on there, but we can start taking it off as we shape everything. I started doing this about I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I had a customer that ordered a horse, and she says, the only change I'd like is, could you soften the eyes? Because at that point I was still doing the traditional eye where you just set it and it's just wide open. And she had asked me, you know, could you maybe shape an eyelid or do something to soften that? And I said, absolutely. And ever since I did that, I just really liked the look of that, and I just kind of stuck with it. So these are just regular clay forming tools. And you know, I get these on Amazon, and again, if you're interested, I'll put a link in the description. The best tool to use is your fingernail, so you'll see me going here even with my fingernail, but I was trying to find something that mimicked it, and these work pretty good. They're pretty cheap. These are not expensive at all, and I've tried all kinds of different tools to do this. As wood, I've used skewers for cooking. I've tried all kinds of different things, and these work pretty good. So you want to wet it a little bit. So I always have a little bit of water with me, and I will just start to shape and go in here and just kind of start to shape the eyelid. And I like to push that back and start exposing the eyeball. And this has a nice contour on it to go right around and wrap itself right around that eye. And you can start to see that eyelid starting to kind of form here a little bit. I'll go around the bottom. And it's just a matter of just sort of shaping everything now. And this is one of those things where you could sit and play with this for, you know, hours and work on it. Well, I guess you can't really do it for hours, but with this epoxy, you have about 20 minutes to really work it. And I don't get crazy with my, you know, going into too much detail with my eyelid. I just like a nice, simple eyelid. Something that once the epoxy's dry, then we can go back in and sand it and kind of, you know, continue to shape it a little bit that way. So I can take some of that off. We have another sort of a warm spell outside. When I say warm, it's probably in the lower 40s, but it's been raining here a lot. But again, this is great weather to be in the shop, in the paint booth, and creating a rocking horse. It's looking pretty good. Again, I'll just take my pinky finger and just kind of try to make a, I don't know, just make a, like the bottom eyelid. Sculpt that a little bit. This putty's going to take, it takes a couple of hours to set, but I always like to give it a good 12 hours, 24 hours to really harden before I go in and play with it. So that'll be tomorrow that we'll come back in and give this all a final sand. Then I've got another tool here that came in the kit, and it's more of, I guess it would be considered like a parting tool. It has just a nice little V, and that again can make the top of the eyelid. So just light pressure, you can just kind of form that and just kind of follow the eye around. And that gives us a nice groove that we can go in tomorrow with sandpaper and then clean all of that up. And again, this is where you can use your thumbnail and just kind of shape it a little bit. You can really play with it a lot. And again, this is that ridge that a lot of horses have, that bone that comes up around the eyebrow. And so I can always come in again and kind of make that area stand out. You kind of have that just kind of, I don't know, swoop up in behind that bone right there, that part of the horse. And that's really all there is to it. Now you just have to walk away, don't touch it, which I have a real problem doing. And then we can come back in tomorrow and clean that up with sandpaper. But really, that's all there is to it. And that's how I set my eyes. And once that epoxy sets, it'll never, this eye, you'll have to break that eye out if you ever want to try to get it out of there. Hopefully you don't have to, but there we go. So that's how I set the eyes and form the eyelids for my horses. There's really not much to it. And the trick to it though is this quick wood epoxy. I can't tell you how useful this stuff is, and it really works great. It bonds to the wood, and like I said, you'd have to break that eye out of there to get it out. I was shown this little trick years ago, probably 15 years ago. I attended a woodworking workshop, and there was a gentleman there demonstrating, and actually he had the Anthony Do design, and he was demonstrating, and we got to talking, and he shared that little tip with me, and I'll tell you what a great valuable tip that is. But again, if you have a little bit of patience, and you can make a really great looking eye and eyelid this way. So now I'm going to move on here, and I want to carve out the notches for the stirrup staples, and then we'll finish out and we'll add a little bit of the quick wood around here. I like to put some and just kind of smooth out and clean up the saddle block area, and then it's just a matter of just letting everything set up, and then we can come back in and, you know, give everything a final sand and get some primer on it. So let's go ahead. I have my mark here. I have this laid out where I want to dig out or carve down for the stirrup staple. So again, nothing to it. I'll start and kind of dig down at the top first, because I want the area at the top of the horse to be a little bit deeper. Then we'll just kind of feather it out. And I'll make this a bit bigger than the pattern. Gives me a little bit of room to play during my final assembly. And there's the other side. Then we'll come back in tomorrow once everything's, the epoxy's all set. We can give everything a final sand and we'll clean these all up and we'll get some primer on. And now that our eyes are set, I filled in around the back of the saddle block. The biggest problem I have at this point is walking away. That's what we need to do. We just need to walk away, let this epoxy do its thing, let it set up and cure overnight. Then we can come in here tomorrow morning, give everything a final sand. It won't take that long. Get some primer in again and get some primer on this guy. So let's just turn the lights off and walk away. It's a new day here in the shop and our epoxy has had plenty of time now to set up and cure. First thing I'm going to do before I really start sanding everything, I want to tape off the eyes. So I've got my painter's tape here. I'm just going to tape off these eyes and then we can get into cleaning up what we did yesterday around here and shape those a little bit better with sandpaper. Give everything a final sand. We'll sand and smooth out the areas here where the stirrup staples go and clean up back here at the saddle block. Give everything a good sand and then we're ready to primer. Now when I'm sanding these eyes in this area, I'm both going to use sandpaper and just do it by hand and kind of shape this eyelid a little bit better. And then I'll go back in with my flap wheel like this. And I can just go in here and just kind of start cleaning all of this area up and smoothing this all out. So there really won't be much of the epoxy left by the time we're done. Now while we're on this side, let's just go ahead, we'll clean up the area for our stirrup staple, again using our 60 grit flap wheel. Now that our eyelids are sanded on both sides and we have the stirrup staple areas sanded out, really all that's left to do is just go over it. I'm going to use my palm sander with 120 grit, go over everything really well, and then I'll switch up and go to my Sandiflex again with 120 grit. We'll give everything a really nice sand, spend about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes in here and give everything a good sand, and then all that's left to do is primer. And that's looking pretty good. I've spent about 20 minutes here sanding everything, getting it all ready. It all feels great all the way around up underneath. Nice and smooth. Everything looks really good. There's a couple little pinholes that I can see, but I'll wait until after I get my first coat of primer on, then I can come in with a little bit of filler and, you know, fix all of those up. But for the most part, this is all ready to go. Sometimes there's just no other way to do it than to just get in here with a piece of sandpaper and your hand and just, you know, work some of these areas over, again, around the eye, the ear. There's just no better tool than your finger in your hand to get some of those areas. All right, let's mix up some primer and let's put some primer on this. Okay, First coat of primer's on, it always feels good when you get the first coat on. It doesn't look great, and that's one thing, you know, whenever you primer one of these horses for the first time, it's going to raise that grain up and it's going to look horrible. Just let it dry. We'll come back in once it's dry, give it a good sand again, put a second coat on. It's going to look a lot better, but yeah, this looks good. All right. Well, good morning. Another day here in the shop, and we've got our first coat of primer on, and I've been spending a little bit of time here this morning sanding it and getting everything ready for the second coat. I've gone ahead, I filled all of the little areas that I saw that needed filled. I'm just going over it with my 120 grit Sandiflex sander, just real light, just hitting some areas, just hitting that, knocking that grain down that is raised up from the primer. And then I'm also using a 120 grit sanding sponge from Klingspor and just some paper, you know, just some sandpaper in some areas. So I pretty much got this ready to sand, or I'm sorry, ready to primer. I've got the sanding pretty well done, so it's ready to go. And speaking of going, I'm going to be taking off here right after I get this primered this morning, and my brother and I are once again jumping in the truck. We're going to pick something up that I can't wait to show you all what it is, and it does pertain to the channel, and I think you all are going to get a real kick out of this. So let me get some primer on this guy, get going, and I'll see you here in a little bit. Well, that's looking a lot better. Like I said, when you spray primer on these for the first time, boy, it looks awful. When you sand it and give it a second coat, it sure looks a lot nicer. There's a few pinholes that have developed here and there. I'll fill those later on this afternoon. I'll just lightly give this, you know, another dusting of primer. I'm not going to go heavy again like I just did. Really two coats is enough. We're just looking for enough primer so that paint, when we go to paint, that gives it something to really stick to. So yeah, when I get back here later this afternoon, I'll give this another really good sand and fix everything, and then, you know, touch that up again. If you're wondering what kind of primer I'm using, again, no real secret to any of this. I'm just using Kills 2 right off the shelf. I like the gray. I've talked about that before. I like the primer to be tinted gray, because then that way you can really see the little holes that developed, and if you fill those, I'll use a white filler, and then that way you can see where you've gone around the horse and filled all your little holes, so you can get those all sanded smooth. Again, really no trick to it, and you know, just mix a little bit of water, thin it out, and spray it on, and that's how I've done it for years. Well, let me get a few things together, get loaded up, and I'll see you later this afternoon. So I'm back from the trip. It's actually the next day. It pretty much took all day. We left here at around 10 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't get back here till about 3 o'clock. And I was able to get the base coat put on the horse. And then this morning I got in here and I started playing with it. Well, I ended up just airbrushing the entire thing. And I'll show you that. Maybe we'll do the reveal here when I'm doing the putting the saddle on and the mane and tail and that kind of thing. But I really wasn't going to get into showing you how to paint a Palomino just yet. And maybe we'll do that on the channel here coming up. But right now I just wanted to just keep moving along. And I've got our rocker in here now, and I'm going to stain this. This is oak, and I'm going to stain this a medium color. That's what the customer had asked for. So I'm getting all ready to go here, and I'm going to start getting some stain put down on this. And I thought maybe this was a good transition where we could talk about my second carving student that he had up here at the shop. And like I said, I had Andrea here a few weeks ago, and that was really my first student, and I'd offered to teach people, and I put a couple of classes together. One, I'll teach you how to do the entire horse from start to finish, basically. Well, that's not painting and, stand and everything, but that's, getting the head carved, getting the body carved, getting everything to that point. So I offered a 5-day course, which you saw, and then I also offer a 3-day head carving course. I may knock that down to 2 days, I'm not sure, but I had Will, he's from Knoxville, Tennessee, and he started the hero horse, or the race horse, from the rocking horse shop, and he started it about 3 years ago and got everything cut and did a wonderful job. Like everything, life got in the way, and he had to put it aside for a little while, and then he came across the channel here and kind of got inspired and wanted to reach out and see if I could possibly direct him and give him some direction on how to carve the head. Of course, I'm all about that. So he came up, and we had a great time. He ended up coming up for really 2.5 days. So he brought his head, brought the body with him, and I helped him get the legs glued on, and we started carving the head. And as far as building, he had a pretty good background in how to build. He's done some furniture and some cabinets and some things, and he's done a really nice job. So building, he really wasn't, he was kind of further along than what Andrea was. So he really just needed, to learn how to and understand how to carve the head and how deep and that kind of thing. So, we got on it, and, well, I'll just let Will tell you. So I'm here with Will, and Will is up from Knoxville, Tennessee. He's taken my 2-day head carving course. How you doing, Will?
Oh, I'm finer than frog's hair split 4 ways the broad axe, Brett.
That's awesome. What'd you think of the class?
Oh, I couldn't ask for a better educational experience.
Good.
To sit here and learn from somebody that's been doing it for years, and me being a first timer to get through this, and the progress that we made in 2 days just astounds me.
Right. And now, what's your occupation?
Well, I'm a sales engineer for electrical test equipment. So I've been in the electrical industry business for 40 years, starting out in the Army and testing on high voltage equipment and things like that.
Very good. Well, thank you for your service.
Oh, you're welcome.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
And you have a little bit of a shop as well.
I do. I've got a little wood shop at home, so I've piddled around for years. I started in middle school taking shop class, and always was a passion of mine.
Right.
And have had various shop tools. And then 7 years ago, when we moved to Knoxville, I was able to expand my wood shop into a nice facility. And I thought I would take on a challenge of doing this horse. And
how did you come up with that? We talked about that.
Yeah, well, we were visiting Biltmore Estates a few years back, my wife and I, and went into the gift shop, and up on the top shelf they had the rocking horse up there, and I stood there in wonderment and amazement of this horse up on the shelf for quite a while. And I said, I think I can do that. And then when I started telling some people about that, they said, oh, you can't do that. So it was more of a challenge now to do it.
Yep.
And so I bought the lumber and cut out the head and started working on it, and got about the head rough cut and just kind of stopped, and I don't know what to do next. So luckily I found your YouTube channel and saw what you had, and then found your website from that, and I saw you offered classes. I said, oh wow, I got to get hold of this guy and find out. And you've been more than accommodating and fitting my schedule to work with your schedule and getting her done. Yeah, it's been a great time. It's been a great time.
But did you think we'd get this far?
Oh, no concept. If I'd had this roughed out, this is the head here that we did, and might edit in a picture of where we started.
Yep.
It's just amazing, and you can't see it on camera, but over on the other side, the body's all glued up, and we've got 1.5 legs done.
Yeah, right.
you know, I'm going to go home and just have some, you know, light fun getting ready to get the rest of
and
it.
get
But
the sawdust flying.
I'm finally going to get the thing done. I was going to do this. I wanted to build it for my granddaughter, and I had a plan when I started. It would be a 3-year project. You know, I don't like to push myself too much on that. Well, 3 years passed last April, but I had a little bit of excuse. I got sick and dealt with that for a while, and now I'm back up on my feet and going, and
here we are.
That's it. That's it. And just couldn't ask for a better person to run the class. If anybody's out there that has a desire to learn, Brett's the guy to come to. He's got the complete package to show you how to get this thing done.
And it's funny you said the complete package, because that's another story. Maybe at some point I'll share that with you, but that's a little bit of an inside joke. But I guess I do have a little bit of the knowledge on how to put one of these things together. I've done a couple in my day.
Yeah, and you know, it's just amazing, Brett, that you've got the patience with me, and I'm very cautious. We've been bouncing back and forth a little bit, being the engineer versus the artist, and I want everything, you know, and he's just, oh, you kind of get it, and I said, wow, it's just, it comes to life, and you know, here we are.
Yeah,
you know?
and I've been teasing him, because I said, don't look at it with engineer eyes, look at it from your artistic eyes. Be the horse, Will, be the horse.
That's right.
And look at what he's done. I mean, it looks fantastic. And on my video too, that you're gonna see me working on the thoroughbred, I was getting really frustrated with the ear length. And now that I've seen Will's and I've been kind of working with him, you know, I can alter the plans on that thoroughbred and make those ears the way I want them. So this has really helped me. I've learned a lot even from this and from you. And I've learned enough that I'm going to be ordering a thoroughbred plans from the Rocking Horse Shop.
This is just from the Rocking Horse Shop in the UK. This is the racehorse or the Hero.
It used to be called the Hero, or it's still called the Hero.
I think it's the racehorse now, but it's not the thoroughbred head, because I went that route and I looked at it and I didn't like it, and I ordered this one because I just liked the finish of it better.
I love it too. I think it's a beautiful horse, and no doubt that I'm going to be ordering some plans, and I'll put a link in the description where you can get the plans again, as always, from the Rocking Horse Shop. And but Will, it's been such a pleasure having you here.
Yeah,
I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a fantastic trip. You know, it was a little bit of a hike, but I'm awfully glad I made it.
Yeah, I am too.
Recommend anybody out there to come see Brett. Get hold of him, because he's the real deal.
And I'll help. Like I said, I've said it numerous times. If you're stuck, or you know, if you're somewhere, comment or email me. I had a really nice email here the other day from a gentleman, and it just said, you know, I've given him a little bit of inspiration, and that's what it's all about. I do hope I'm inspiring, and I think that's how you had put it away and then found me again on my channel and kind of got that fire again. And like, I think maybe I can get this done. I'm really glad you did reach out.
I know that it's going to finish, you know, and one of the things that once I signed up for the class, I went ahead and ordered the accessory kit, which is the saddle and the hair and all the things, and really looking forward to completing this whole project and watching my grandchildren, two granddaughters, get on it and just have
and that's
grand time.
That's gonna be, and you've got two, so you've got another one to make.
I may have to do that. We'll see. But right now, this is the family present rather than from my oldest granddaughter.
Right.
So.
Well, I think that's about all we can do right now. So let's go ahead. We'll take this top. It's pretty well glued. We can take it over to your body. We can get those put down and maybe get it wrapped up and get you on your way.
Okay. Well, thank you, Brett.
Thanks, Will.
Take care.
Well, Will and I had a blast, as you saw, over the weekend, and it was a lot of fun to have him here. And it was a lot of fun. I just love teaching and showing people, you know, how to make these horses. And especially somebody like Will that picked up the plans and built the horse a couple of years ago and started carving, but just didn't know really, you know, how far to go and what to do. And to be able to show him a few things and get him to that point, you know, where he was walking out of here, everything was pretty well ready to start rough carving. And to see it start coming together, you know, and to see the smile on his face, it was just really, it was just so much fun. It was just really, really rewarding. And I just love that feeling. And hopefully we'll be doing some more classes here in 2023. Well, that's going to do it for me here for this episode. I got my rockers all stained a medium. I'm going to just let them sit overnight, and then we'll come in next week and throw some sanding sealer down. and start clear coating everything, and we'll clear coat our Palomino and get that put back, put that together, do final assembly on that, and get it ready for Christmas. Make some child really, really happy. Again, I really appreciate you all hanging out with me here at the shop. If you're getting something out of these videos, I hope you are. Love to hear from you. Drop me a comment, shoot me an email. Love to know what you're up to out in your shops too, what you're working on for Christmas this year. And you can always check me out on Instagram and Pinterest at Greenfield Woodworks. And my website is greenfieldwoodworks.com. And again, if there's something that maybe I can help you with out there, drop me an email, shoot me a message. Be happy to help. And until next week, happy carving. We'll see ya. Take care.